Are you struggling with self-worth and depression? If you've ever wondered what it's like to feel joy, like true, authentic joy, you're going to want to stick around for this episode. Today, I have my personal mentor, Shannon Kaiser, on to share how she successfully found joy and even wrote a book about it. By the end of this conversation, you'll feel more optimistic, positive, and hopeful that things will get better. And you'll even have a game plan on how to get there. My name is Corey Logaitis, and I'm a motivational strategist and speaker who truly knows how difficult it is to struggle with self-worth and depression. For those of you who may not know, in 2018, I lost my long-term post-divorce partner to suicide, which put me into a extremely difficult situational depression, which even had me contemplating my own thoughts of perhaps having the same fate as my late boyfriend. It was very difficult, and my way through it was I assembled a support team. And one of the people on this support team was Shannon Kaiser. Through Shannon's coaching and mentorship, she not only helped me discover what my true purpose was, but also helped me build this exact platform that you are watching me on. It's pretty exciting when you think about it. Before we go ahead and get started, if this type of inspirational conversations help motivate you, definitely be sure to stop right now and hit subscribe so you get updated the next time a new episode airs. Now let's dive into today's show. As I mentioned, my guest Shannon Kaiser is not only my personal mentor, but she is also a best-selling author of over 5 books, including The Self-Love Experiment and the very, very new, as of the airing of this episode, book Joy Seeker. As an international life coach, speaker, and retreat leader, Shannon helps people discover their truest potential. I'm so excited to have Shannon on to share her story with you today. And now it's time for the story to begin. Hey everyone, welcome to the Corey Lowe Show. I am so excited today to have a very special guest. Shannon Kaiser is joining us. How are you doing, Shannon?
Hi, it's so good to be here. Thanks for having me on your show.
It's so fun to actually have you here because a lot of people may not be aware, but Shannon has actually been my own business mentor since I started coaching.
It's so awesome to see everything you're doing and helping and motivating everyone. It's beautiful. I'm so happy that we get to be here together like this. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And I'm really excited to have you share your story with the audience, as well as all the new things that you have coming up, new and exciting things. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So I start off my show with the same question for every single guest. Mm-hmm. And it's, what was childhood like for you?
It's such a layered question.
Yeah.
But, childlike in general, and as far as my family structure, I had a lot of love. I was very cared for. But my family, there was a pivotal time between age, I'd say 5 to 9, where we moved a lot. We moved different states, and I was in 3 different schools in 3 different years. So I got made fun of a lot. At age 9, I started an eating disorder because I didn't feel like I fit in. I would come home. My parents were both working to try to provide for us, and I would overeat, and I became very, very fat as a little kid. And this perpetuated the bullying at school. And then once I hit high school, I became anorexic. And so I suffered internally with not feeling like I fit in. Even though I know my parents loved me very much, I wasn't able to feel it. And I really trace, with all the inner work that I've done and all the trauma and I do these different processes, I was able to trace all of this back to when I was actually born. I was born premature, 3 months early. I was only 3 pounds when I was born. And I didn't even know how that would affect me, but I went on a shamanic journey, went to a place called Rhythmia where you do this inner child work. And it was interesting because I went back to the moment I was born and I was put straight into an incubator. I didn't even have human touch. And so in that moment, I had a belief that was created: I'm unlovable, I don't belong. And so my whole life up until, my mid-30s, I felt like I didn't belong. So all of that is kind of packed into, although I know I was loved, I definitely didn't feel it. So it put me on a self-love journey though.
Wow, that's incredible. So it took you till your 30s during that journey at Rhythmia specifically. So what actually brought you to Rhythmia? Because I know I follow you online, on social, and you post, when you go and you do those visits. So what actually brought you to that as being a potential kind of solution or healing journey?
It's interesting because it's a great question. I didn't realize I was going to Rhythmia to do inner child work. I'm a wellness journalist and I'm also a wellness writer, and through Play with the World, my website, I do a lot of travel. And I was just looking at it as an opportunity to experience more wellness, but it was transformational for me because you do these shamanic journeys each night where you go into these deep meditative states. And while I was in those, my intention going in was to remove all blocks holding me back. And I let the universe kind of control that. I didn't have any idea what that would look like, but because that wasn't my intention, I think that allowed me to go into the moments my beliefs were created, the pivotal moments of my life where I thought I wasn't good enough, but really I was able to see it in a more compassionate way, that every single thing I've been through was actually a beautiful part to help me learn what it is I need to learn. Self-love, to love yourself no matter what, to learn how to be authentic and not, fall into the fears of the world. And so it's been I thank my traumas. I thank my pivotal moments, although they were impossible to get through. It felt like it actually led to the most, like, my career as an author and a coach.
Sure. No, and that's so often the case with everybody that I've had on the show who I interview. It's through, these really, really deep, dark life challenges that we find like the inspiration and motivation to kind of go on and do bigger and better things for us in the world at large.
Yeah. And even with you and your own journey, it's like these things we go through, we feel sometimes, obviously we've heard it before, that they're happening to us. They're really kind of showing up for us and helping us get into a more, I guess, healthier, authentic state.
Right. No, I agree. And I think it also is meant to kind of teach us something along the way.
Yes,
it's got a purpose, that it's put in our path, that we're meant to learn something. And it's through the challenge and the struggle of actually getting through it that those lessons, become apparent.
For sure. Yeah.
Awesome. So, kind of circling back to, your young adulthood, I know you mentioned you had, struggling with eating disorders. You had mentioned, addictions and stuff, and eventually depression. So could you walk us through, what that experience was like for you and what you specifically did in order to kind of, motivate yourself out of that situation?
Yeah. So for many years, I was kind of doing what I thought the world wanted of me. And I ended up going into a career in advertising, which I was a graphic designer and art director. I'm really good at art. I love art. I see the world in a visual way. So I loved that career until all of a sudden it didn't feel like what I thought it did. And I was in the corporate world working in advertising. I thought it's what I wanted, but it's also what I thought the world wanted of me. Get a job, get a high-paying job, all that. And I was very depressed. I would cry myself to sleep every night. My eating disorders went rampant, and this is in my 20s. Like, they just more intense than they ever been. And I actually started using drugs, and I became addicted to drugs. My relationships were really superficial. I was dating a man who wanted to marry me, but I knew that the relationship was built on, drug use, and it didn't feel like it was the right fit for my big picture. What happened is I went to the doctor. They diagnosed me with clinical depression, and I came home and I had a pivotal moment. I cried on the bathroom floor, and my inner voice said, there's something better for you. It said, you don't have to keep living this life that is not for you. Just follow your heart. And that's when I realized I haven't been following my heart. What does my heart want? And the very next day I read an article that said dogs can help with depression. So I had a prescription in one hand and a magazine article about dogs. And I was like, I want to go the dog route I'm going to try that out. Now, I know that prescriptions medicine helps people at very important times in their life, but my personal path, I went and I adopted a dog, and his name was Tucker, and he changed everything for me. His love by my side, I found self-love. I left advertising. I moved back I was living in Chicago, moved back to Oregon, where I grew up, and started my own business as a writer and a coach, and I never looked back. So Tucker was really kind of a pivotal moment for me as well. However, 2 years ago, he died of old age. So we know that's coming. But anytime someone dies, a loss is a loss. And that grief, it spun me into a whole deeper level of myself I never even knew. So I went into a deeper depression, and I had to ask myself some of the deep questions. The first question I asked is, who are you? What do you really want? And I had already asked myself those, but I think we always have to check in with ourselves, especially when traumas happen or when situations that we feel out of control happen. And then I asked myself, what have you always wanted to do? that you've never given yourself permission to do? And anyone listening, watching, I think you should write that down. It's a great journal question. Mm-hmm. What have you always wanted to do, but you haven't given yourself permission to do? Because we all have these dreams that come back to us. And my inner voice said travel the world full time. So that actually led me to go travel, which was a beautiful journey. I realized as a coach and a writer, I had been doing my work for over 8 years. I was in a very stable place to be location independent. That was my goal. Why wasn't I doing? So I did. I set out to travel and work. And it was by far the most successful, most beautiful, abundant year of my life.
Oh, that's amazing. So where was the first place you went?
The very first place was Cuba.
Ooh.
And it's all because it was a little bit, they say Americans aren't allowed to go to Cuba. There was all these things. The reason Cuba was first is because I found a plane ticket that was so cheap. And I was like, I guess I'm starting my whole journey there. Like, how could you pass off that amazing ticket? And then I read some articles later, and the political administration at the time had done something with Central America and that area to make basically not going there as easy. So they dropped the prices right away before that was installed. So I didn't know, but I grabbed that deal.
Oh, wow.
And I had a one-way ticket. I created an itinerary, but I knew I was speaking in certain countries at certain times. So I knew I just needed to position myself. And as a coach and a writer, I can use Skype. We'll talk to anybody in the world. What was really amazing about the journey that I didn't expect is I'd have people, when I was in Croatia, clients and people who lived in other countries are like, I'm in this country, and we would meet in person, which was, I'd have coaching sessions with people that I wouldn't have really had the opportunity, so it was beautiful.
Oh, sure. That's so fun. So, and it's interesting too, because many of the guests that I've had on the show, especially ones that have had those, pivotal life moments and that kind of fork in the road that you get to kind of like start over. And like you had mentioned too, like, what is it that I want to do that I've never allowed myself to do? Because truth is, when we have those, life experiences, it's in that moment that we really do have a chance to kind of more or less start over. Right. So that's a great time to actually sit and think, okay, well, what is it that I've always wanted to do that I now can do because this opportunity is opened up? And so many people that I've interviewed on the show have traveled, that it's been like, it's such a therapeutic journey. So what did you find was, the most healing aspect about the travel journey for you?
Well, for me, that's a beautiful question. To me, one, it was, this is the big dream and I'm going for it. I'm following through. But 2, writing is my therapy. I wasn't planning on writing a book, but I wrote a book. I called it The Joy Seeker Journey, my personal journey. And I knew I needed to do it, but the writing happened to be the most therapeutic part because I wrote about it, and the book it comes out. It's out in October, like this fall. So the most amazing thing is, when you follow your heart, you are always provided for, but we have to have the tools in place, and writing is my tool. So I didn't realize that all that would fall into place. But on a side note as well, traveling, this is the thing I didn't expect. I was going to these places. My intention was, this is the biggest dream. I'm going to look at my bucket list. I'm going to tackle everything on it. Eiffel Tower, check, Barcelona, all these things, check. But about 4 months in, I was exhausted. I was actually getting angry. I was resentful, and I was feeling really like, what is the point? And that's when I said, what is traveling really about? It's the inner journey we go on. And I think to truly be a traveler in the world, and why I love travel so much, is because we are looking for more, and we think we're going to get it outside. I thought I'd get it in the next big bucket list check off. Same thing at home though, even if you're not traveling, if you're looking for that goal weight, the next career big, the book deal, the next relationship status, whatever it is, we're looking for things outside of ourselves. And the biggest thing that the Joy Seeker journey gave me is to recognize everything we need. We've heard it before, but I feel it and know it now, is truly inside of us. And joy, happiness, success is not in the next big thing. It's right here where we are.
Right here, right now.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're writing the book, right, as you're traveling, you're going through this Joy Seeker, experience and journey, did the writing initially start as like journaling, or did it come to you as, intended to be a book?
Such a good question. It wasn't a journal at all. In fact, I was secret. I was on the phone with my agent and I had a whole other book proposal, and actually the other book written, like 50,000 words of another book that might see the light of day someday. And he's like, okay, I just want to get your permission. I'm going to send it out to publishers. Do I have your permission? I'm pushing go. And in that moment, I didn't even know, but I said, actually, I have another book idea called Joy Seeker. And it was like coming through me and I didn't even know. And I just said, I'm traveling full time this year and I think this needs to be the book. And he's like, okay, great, go for it. So I have a great agent. And so I spent the next month really looking at, if this book is a process, what is it? And really it's about authentic living. And it's about how to let go of what's holding you back so you can be who you're meant to be. And so the book itself, there's a couple travel stories in there, but it's not a travel memoir at all. It's not a travel story at all. In fact, that was the other book we were going to pitch, which was from a previous travel trip. And so it's interesting. It really turned into, it was almost like I downloaded it and I'd write from, my favorite thing is to write from different coffee shops in different cultures. So when I get to each city, I would scope out the places to work and inspiration was coming to me and it wrote itself. It was the most joyful experience I've ever had writing a book.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating that it downloaded to you so quickly. So is it like, because I know you and I have spoken about this even with my coaching, that I channel write. It just kind of like comes out. So is it similar to that?
It really was. And it came out relatively fluid and easy. There wasn't a lot of editing. And so I think that's what happens when we're truly aligned and connected to our best self. We're an open channel for our higher self and for our true self and our heart to lead the way. And that was just a testament. So it was a very rewarding process. Yeah.
That's so fun. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah.
So what's the process? I'm sorry. So, when it comes to being a joy seeker, what is that definition? When somebody picks up the book, what should they be expecting?
Yeah. So the book itself is how to let go of what's holding you back so you can live the life you're made for. So the book is for anyone who is exhausted from trying so hard to make things work, anyone who feels like they're off track or behind. If we get stuck in comparing ourselves to others, that inner critic still kind of running the show. But truly what a joy seeker is, it is such a beautiful journey and arc. I just got done. I got back from LA reading the audiobook. And as we were talking before we got on here, and as I read the audiobook, I realized how beautiful of an inner journey we go on together. And I lived it, and now I put it in the work. And as you're reading it, it's a process. Joy Seeker is about living from your heart and being who you're meant to be from an authentic place, living in the most highest version of you. And it's not about being the best you can be, because there's always going to be something better, right? We're always striving. It's about allowing yourself to be who you're meant to be. That's a difference.
Right. Perfect. So for somebody who wants to get started on that journey today, what is one thing that they could do to get more in tune with that?
I think ask yourself the questions. Become more self-aware. Self-actualization is key. When I was stuck in my depression, I was not able to ask the questions because I was so in the depression of I feel stuck, no one understands me, I'm lost, I hate myself. But asking a question as simple as, is this the life I really want to live? Changed for me. Another question that you can ask yourself, journal it, or just ask yourself, what is something I've always wanted to do but haven't given myself permission? And then another question, the final one, power of 3, is what brings me joy? What is it that a lot of us don't know? And we know in our heart, but we're so busy living up here. So I think a powerful process for all of us is to start asking the questions, and don't be afraid of the answers. Just that will reveal your truth.
Right. No, and something you just said to really hit a chord, because I remember it was something you had asked me. As far as like, what is it that you really like to do? And I remember when we had first started working, which was about a year ago, now that I'm thinking, which is crazy.
Yeah. Wow,
but one of the first questions you had asked me was, what did I like to do as a child? And I've incorporated that now, even when I coach other people, because when you really think about it, when we are children, that is the closest that we've really ever been to our, true selves. Before society and, other people's, thoughts and intentions and belief systems kind of got imparted on us.
Totally.
So think about what it was that we loved to do as a child. It really gets really close to that answer, I think, for a lot of people.
100%. And you saw it firsthand. And I was so excited because you did that and dove into it. In the very next session, you're like, yes, I know. And look at where you're at now. It's beautiful. I asked myself that same question when I was depressed. And I realized as a child, I used to like sit in nature on the playground and write. And that's part of why I was made fun of. Kids were like, oh, look, she's like writing. And I don't know why, because it's something that brought me so much joy. So I returned to what I did as a child. I think all of us, that's the question, right? What did you love to do as a child?
Right.
More of that now.
What do you like to do now?
Yeah.
But yeah, that clarity is such an important element, even for, the people that I work with, one-on-one coaching. That's usually the very first thing we start with, because so many people just, they know they want more than they have today, but they have no clear picture on what that actually looks like. And without knowing exactly what it is that you want, you can't possibly see the path to get there. Yeah, exactly. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah. And I went through that too. And that's what I share in the Joy Seeker book. There's actually a whole section about the stages we go through, because when Tucker passed away, I questioned everything and I didn't know what I want. I actually love writing and coaching, love it. But I was questioning, is this what I'm supposed to do? Which is crazy because it's my purpose. But I went to a complete lack of clarity. And then I realized there's a process we go through. It's almost like whether you're grieving or not having clarity turns into, okay, I could have the more clarity and give myself permission. And then it turns into, I can't not do what I know I'm meant to do. And that's like you living your truth now and doing all of the work you're doing and all of what we do. You get to a point where you can no longer hide from your dreams because you know that that's what you're meant to do.
Right. No, that's so true. And to kind of add on to, what you mentioned too, I know for part of my own journey, as far as, creating my coaching business. So one thing I ran from for so long was I had some kind of guilt surrounding my business background. Mm-hmm. And no matter what, and I'm not sure if you remember this from way back when, but I was like, no, I want to be a life coach, blah, blah, blah. Like I want to work with people on their individual problems. I don't want to necessarily work one-on-one with businesses. But the more I ran from it, the more opportunities showed up where I was actually able to use that skill set to be able to help people in a life coaching setting, because ultimately there are people out there that want to start businesses that don't know how to create the systems that they need in order to do it, or how to launch it, or, how to market. And so by finally learning to accept that part of me and to be proud of it instead of to, more or less, be ashamed of it, has allowed me to transform more lives than I ever thought.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through that too, because I was kind of like, I don't want anything to do with advertising, corporate world. No. But then I realized, oh my gosh, I know marketing, I know advertising. So to me as a book author, it doesn't even feel like advertising or marketing. It's just sharing. And I love it. That's as like marketing my books and my coaching is just as fun as doing it, because that's a skill set. Same with you. And I went through the same process where I was running. I do think that's part of human nature, but you nailed it. Once we accept it, everything changes. Your life is rich and you realize, wow, that's a skill set that came into my life to help serve me for the higher good.
Right. No, and then to even kind of add to that further. So the other thing which I teach on right now, and I talk about it a lot online, is every single opportunity that we have at some point in time is going to prepare you for where you're meant to go. So for me, and I don't know how this worked out for you, Shannon, but our backgrounds are kind of similar in that I went to art school. So I went for graphic design. I was a digital artist. I did digital media. So I did video and stuff like that. And when I got out of school, and because I went to art school, I didn't have a job, I ended up working for my family, who then taught me, everything I needed to know about business. But it's interesting where those skill sets ended up for me later, because now in what I'm doing as a coach and a content creator and stuff, I'm using literally every single skill I learned.
It's amazing.
Videos, to create the podcast, to write, to market, to teach other people. So, so many people, I think, kind of have this like self-limiting belief that wherever they are today is not good enough because they feel they're meant for more. But really what I challenge people to do is to think, okay, well, where I am today is essential for me to get to where I need to go. I just need to figure out what the lessons are.
Totally. Exactly. That's exactly it. Yep. Totally.
Mm-hmm. So you do a lot between writing and coaching and speaking and traveling. If you had to pick one, what would be your favorite?
Well, it's definitely, I remember talking to you about this too, because we were saying there's always that one, like you see people who do a lot. For me, it's writing. Everything comes from my writing. It's interesting. There's a lot of other coaches out there who are coaches first, and you see it. And I have really good friends who have books, but they're speakers first. You know it, because when they're on stage, they're live. I love all of them, but everything seems to come from my writing. When my books come out, that's when, my very first book, I tried to have a coaching practice before, but it was like the book came out and people were like, I need to work with you. The retreats come from the books. And so for me, it's not just everything comes from that. It's just I become a more authentic version of myself every time I write a book, and I become the next level teacher that I need to be. And it's a beautiful process. It's so fun to write. I love writing books. I'm already working on my next one.
Wait to hear more about it.
Yeah.
So Shannon, speaking of all your past experiences, and you've been through a lot, just like we all have, between your, the eating disorders, addictions, depression. For somebody out there that's listening today who may be in that same situation, who's looking for their way out, what's one thing you would want them to know?
I would say to please be more self-compassionate to yourself. Please be more kind to yourself. We put so much pressure that we're not where we're supposed to be. Something's wrong with us. We're damaged. We're wounded. This happened to me. So very first, self-compassion. I know when you're in it, it's hard to know that it's connected to your big picture. But just like you and I were just talking, it is connected. And I see so clearly how that depression that I went through and the drug addictions led me to the next part, but I didn't know when I was in it. So what I would say is to trust yourself, trust if you your higher power, your connection, trust it.
Beautiful. Well said. So Shannon, where can my viewers and listeners find you?
So my website is playwiththeworld.com. You can get a free audio meditation on living your ideal life. I also have a lot of resources there. My book, Joy Seeker, has a lot of information as well that's available at bookstores all over. I will be on book tour, but on social media, Facebook and Instagram, Shannon Kaiser Writes, WRITES, like my author page. I'm always posting positive content, and I'd love to see you over there.
Awesome. I will be sure that we link up to all of that in the show notes. Make sure everybody has the link to go ahead and buy your book. And while you were saying that, I wanted to give you kind of like a shout out for anybody out there that's listening to the show on Corey Lowe Radio. That was Shannon's idea. It was going to be the Corey Lowe show for both. And she was like, no, you should go Corey Lowe Radio. I'm like, you know what? You're right.
Cool. It sounds so cool. And it's very evergreen. Like it lasts a lot, like years. I see it being super, super longevity.
Right. No, that was the plan. So thank you for being part of that process.
It's so cool. It's so cool to see and work with you. And it's been an honor to be here on your show too. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
If there's anything you take away from my conversation with Shannon today, I really hope it's this. If you're courageous enough to try it, inner child work can be so surprising. So whether it's you have an experience similar to Shannon, where you learn that we're holding on to self-limiting beliefs from being a newborn, from the moment you were born, or to doing self-purpose work in really thinking back on what it was that truly stoked joy for you as a child, reaching back to our deepest and furthest memories of our own joys of childhood could be so transformative for us as adults. Always be open-minded to alternative solutions. So after Shannon was diagnosed with clinical depression and she had a prescription in her hand, as fate would have it, she also came across an article on how dogs can help with depression. So by keeping her options open, she got her dog Tucker, who truly transformed her life. You never ever know where something will take you unless you have an open mind to actually try it. Being honest with yourself, truly honest, and knowing exactly what it is you want and not necessarily what everybody else around you wants is really the first step in being one step closer to being closer to your true purpose and experiencing joy. As was Shannon's experience, as well as many other people that I've had on the show, travel can be a truly transforming and therapeutic experience if you haven't tried it yet. I also love Shannon's first step to joy seeking, which was self-awareness. Again, this kind of circles back to what I talked about just a few moments ago, as far as knowing what it is you truly want. To be able to be in tune with that, it requires a sense of self-awareness and knowing who you are, what were you put on this earth to do, and how can you best value others. It's being true to yourself and making the time and learning the strategies to get more self-aware will be beneficial overall. And lastly, Shannon's advice for anybody out there who has gone through what she had gone through, and that's to be kind to yourself, to have compassion for yourself, and to love yourself. Because when you're able to do that, you're able to then find the strength that you need to transform. What's your favorite takeaway from my conversation with Shannon today? I definitely want to hear and get in on the conversation. So leave a comment below or tag me or Shannon on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter and let us know what you think. Ready for even more motivational content? Be sure to head on over to my website, www.coreylowe.com, and sign up for my email list. Every single week, you'll receive tips, tools, resources, and interviews just like this one, designed to help you lead a life filled with passion, positivity, and purpose. I look forward to connecting with you there.